Along the northern coast of Panama, in the Caribbean Sea, lies a chain of 365 small tropical islands, part of a province known as Guna Yala. Nearly 42,000 indigenous people call these islands home. At first glance, life here may seem frozen in time and removed from the complexities of the modern world. It isn't. For it hangs suspended between the historic culture of its people and the ever-present contemporary life on Panama's nearby mainland. This modern world brings with it an ongoing threat to the survival of the culture of the Guna people. And so much of that culture is found in its art, the art of the mola. Molas are handmade textiles that tell of deeper things beyond the beauty of color and design. For molas reflect the Guna Yala people and their story of struggle and survival. We will visit this place, its people, and their art. We will also visit an American museum where the work of university students to unveil a mola exhibition takes them first on a journey to these islands, to the very soul of the Guna Yala people.
A journey to the soul of Guna Yala is brought to you in part by Dr. Nicole Edicon and by the following: Ms. Kathy L. Jones and Portland Investments, Inc.
The people of Guna Yala have lived in these islands for hundreds of years. And for hundreds of years, they have used the art of the mola to both preserve and reveal their culture and beliefs. But this art isn't simply viewed with the eye. It also adorns the body as traditional clothing worn by Guna women. Some of the earliest mola designs can be found in geometric patterns, first used several hundred years ago in the artistic expressions of body painting. But after Spain began colonizing Central and South America in the 1500s, missionaries discouraged the practice of body painting. So, body art became fabric art, and fabric art would be made into clothing. In fact, the word mola means clothing in the Guna language.
At 10 years old, my mother taught me and my sisters.
Rosalina Lopez is a Guna mola maker. As with many of the islanders, Rosalina speaks the Guna language. She says most mola makers are women, and they learn their craft early on.
Our grandmothers used to say that it was taboo to use multiple colors in a geometrical or labyrinth-style mola. Certain colors can attract deadly animals like snakes, no matter how powerful the mola. Therefore, multicolored molas were strongly advised against. But our designs today use many colors and turn out more aesthetically pleasing.
Though these islands are part of the Panamanian Republic, there is a system of self-governance practiced here. Like many Guna islands, this island has a sila, a political and spiritual leader. Silas head up a congress of local leaders and maintain a powerful presence in the community.
The first molas were abstract, with geometric, labyrinth-like designs. They act as weapons and shields.
Louise Murphy Davis is the sila on the Guna island of Karti-Sudup.
Back when our ancestors lived in the mainland, our grandmothers would paint their bodies with jagua. That's the same plant they used to paint their noses. Slowly, we began moving to the islands. Molas used to be longer and wider. Moving to the islands brought a change with shorter hairstyles and different mola designs.
But along with these simple, creative changes came change of another kind, one that would directly threaten the survival of the Guna culture and the art of mola making itself. In 1903, when Panama became an independent nation, there was a government mandate for the Guna Yala people to become part of Panama's national culture by abandoning their heritage, including traditional dress. With their very identity at stake, the people of these islands fought back, and in 1925 sparked a revolution called La Revolución de Lowe, or the Guna Revolution.
In 1925, we fought. One of the issues was to keep and to maintain the mola. Great men fought for the future.
Another Sila and Guna Congress member is Maximiliano Ferre. Ferre speaks to the crucial history of the Guna culture and how subversive acts by the early 20th century Panamanian government tried to destroy the Guna heritage.
The first schools, the first churches spoke that molas were a very old tradition and look ugly. A woman is dressed oddly and should not dress this way. Should dress like that of a Western modern woman. The colonial government and police were very influential at that time. They made every Guna woman remove their mola, their rings. There were decrees against the mola. You should wear what a civilized woman wears. This is one of the key issues why we fought.
With the help of the United States, a negotiated settlement was finally reached, resulting in a new constitution with assurances of Guna independence by the Panamanian government. Since then, to further shelter their culture, the Congresses of the Guna Islands worked to protect the authenticity of mola creation. It worked for a while.
It all began with the rise of tourism in the 30s. Tourism began here in Cardi in 1930. That's when our grandmothers first began selling molas.
The work of Delfino Davis is important to the Guna culture, for he is director, curator, and founder of El Museo Guna, or the Guna Museum.
Tourists enjoyed shopping, and Guna women capitalized on it. Guna women sew molas mostly for personal use, but they sell them as well.
And to cater to tourists, Guna women began creating more modern designs that often clashed with the original purpose of mola art.
People request designs like landscapes, birds, and fish. Women see that there's money to be made with request and commission work, so that's been a big motivator for a change. Guna women have made an industry of it.
We saw molas to wear them. When we receive requests, we make them to sell. We sell them knowing they're bound to be resold. I'm somewhat conflicted about that. I'd like to show resistance, but since I need the money, I sell molas.
All communities make both kinds of molas. Traditional molas can carry lots of significance or be plain and simple. Modern molas, though, like those depicting planes or helicopters, are detrimental. They're void of any spiritual meaning or life. It needs to be traditional in order to be a symbol of Guna resistance and spirits.
The traditions and customs of today, more or less, are declining. They are being lost. It is a very strong influence, that of the Western culture.
For Delfino Davis, one of the answers to preserving the Guna culture is the work he performs at the Guna Museum.
The mission of the Guna Museum is to venerate, conserve, and teach Guna culture to the Guna community. We hold exhibitions for the students. Students come to visit, and there are learning activities for them.
As Delfino Davis's Guna Museum educates the young about Guna culture and art, so too does this museum, located 1,800 miles due north of the islands. It's the Lowe Art Museum at the University of Miami in Miami, Florida. Opening in 1952, the Lowe Art Museum was the first art museum in all of South Florida. It serves as a teaching resource for the university and a major community art museum as well. The molas of Guna Yala were first collected here in 1994. But this display of mola art isn't an exhibition that came about in the usual way. This exhibition is the work of 12 university students in a museum program called Art Lab. Art Lab at the Lowe Art Museum uses art from the Lowe's permanent collection to create student-planned exhibits. And molas from the islands of Guna Yala are the focus this time. But the purpose isn't simply art appreciation. It is also cultural appreciation. Appreciation of the people who create this art and their story.
Art Lab at the Lowe is designed to give undergraduate students at the University of Miami an opportunity to learn how a museum exhibit is put together.
Dr. Tracy Ardren is a professor of anthropology and an anthropological archaeologist at the University of Miami. It was under Dr. Ardren's direction that the students would research in great detail both the art of mola making and the Guna Yala people themselves.
So they get to work with an entire collection, study it, come to know it as well as they can, then make choices about what to put into an exhibit, design it, write the text, and even produce a catalog.
Dr. Arjun would find books, and there were these old books that she would find on the internet anywhere, and she'd be like, here they are, read them. The one in the middle, you can see the ridge right in the corners.
Jessica Figueroa is one of the university students who worked on the Guna Yala Art Lab project.
We also did research on museums themselves, on how museums can be used to change the status quo of the people they represent, and how museums can be a perpetuator of knowledge for future generations.
Brian Dorsum was director and curator of the Lowe Art Museum for 40 years until his recent retirement.
This museum began collecting first largely European and American painting and sculpture, but slowly over time it got its first Asian piece in 1953. The Asian collection includes material from China, India, Japan, Tibet, Korea, Southeast Asia. It's probably the largest single collection we have in the building, about 5,000 pieces out of some 19,000 pieces in the overall collection of the museum.
And a small section of those 19,000 pieces are molas, the focus of the Art Lab project. However, there was another very important element to this daunting effort.
Last year, for the first time, we integrated travel abroad. The students went to Panama. That trip made all the difference in the world. It's something they can't experience solely in a museum environment.
For Jessica Figueroa, it was quite the adventure.
The trip was dunking into this culture out of, I had never been out of the country.
The flight from Miami to Panama City is only 2.5 hours, but the city itself seems half a world away. Nearly 1.5 million people make Panama City and its surrounding communities home. It is the capital of Panama and the largest of its cities, bursting with multiple high-rise buildings. You can enter the Pacific Ocean side of the Panama Canal from here. The second part of her journey would be by car through one of Panama's dense rainforests. This tranquil setting is certainly unlike the teeming streets of Panama City, and unlike Miami as well. Finally, a small boat journeys to the islands of Guna Yala. Small planes can also make their way here, but Jessica has chosen to travel the blue waters of the Caribbean Sea. The ocean here is deep blue, and the vegetation rich and green. Colorful reminders of the tranquil and peaceful place these indigenous people call home. There is a palpable serenity to these islands, with white sand beaches bordered by bamboo and with villages made of thatched straw.
I was in Guna Yala, and living with the Guna people, feeling their warmth, hearing their stories, their songs, being part of El Congreso, it gave me a sort of attachment to the culture, and it made me very proud of the works that we have to present of theirs.
By living with indigenous families and sitting at the feet of Guna seamstresses, the students discovered that molas tell deeper truths than their images might suggest. Truths that are revealed to the makers of molas themselves.
The Guna philosophy speaks of two energies. The woman is equal. Who produces the child? It is the woman. We consider Mother Earth as our protector, the one that leads us, our guide. For that reason, the mola appears to women. The woman is the thinking and the center within the culture. Guna is the origin. Our great mothers were at different times knowing and improving the mola. The first molas were influenced by and tied with nature, Mother Earth, the sea, the cosmos. These were the first geometric figures that adopted our mothers.
Another reason tourism and the selling of molas have become so important is the changing economy in the Guna Yala Islands. Because diving for lobster and crab, the traditional employment of Guna men, is often done in small numbers. It can be difficult to create a sustainable industry, and so men here are in search of wage labor, which often leaves them little hope but to move to the mainland.
It saddens me when they leave. Husbands call for their wives, and their wives bring over the entire families. Once they arrive in the city, they never want to come back. The majority never do come back. Many prefer city life. They forget everything, including agricultural practices. They don't want to work the land anymore. They just want a job.
One recent estimate puts the number of Guna people now living in the two largest cities in Panama, Panama City and Colón, at 10,000. And that isn't the only transformation underway here.
The climate has been changing like crazy. It's not raining nearly as much as it used to. You can also see changes in the ocean.
The rising sea levels and higher storm surges are beginning to flood these villages. Scientists estimate that waters surrounding the Guna Yala Islands are rising at an alarming rate of almost an inch per year, predicting they could be completely submerged in the next 2 to 3 decades.
On climate change, indigenous peoples, not only Guna indigenous peoples, have fought with the state with different philosophies. Climate change is affecting the whole world and has also come to us. Waste has hit our shores. The other is the sea. The coast in the future will disappear. We are presenting projects that they have to be relocated, residents of the coast, to the mountains.
In the end, all these changes add up to one simple fact. The cultural riches of this indigenous people are under threat. But once again, it may be the resistance of the Guna Yala people that saves their way of life, even if major adjustments are required. And one avenue is through education, where parents and their children are reminded of the importance and significance of what they have inherited.
Here in Guna Yala, we have special dates and seminars to teach culture. 2 days a week, the women gather for meetings. The same goes for men. 2 days of the week, we gather and meet with the Sailas at the House of Congress to hear the Word of God and the sacred songs.
Women take on a major role as well. Not only are they leaders in passing along the Guna culture to another generation, they also take part in how today's community functions.
Women have rights within Congress. We have a voice and we can vote. There have been times when we've demanded things from men after a Congress meeting. When the community wants to do something, us women always weigh in on the subject. They ask us for our advice on how the community should act. Women have the final say.
The spirit of Guna women is the spirit of the history of the Guna people themselves, determined. The students also discovered a connection to what brought them here in the first place, the power of a museum. Museums are often thought of as places to display the past, but like the Guna Museum, museums everywhere can be used to change the status quo of the people they represent by reminding them of who they are and how they fit into the world around them.
Our collection is more like a bunch of heirlooms. They're things that belong to our grandparents and ancestors. They use these objects. To this day, we still use them as we practice maintaining Guna traditions.
The students then returned to Miami and the Lowe Art Museum to create an exhibit they hoped would honor all they had learned.
They come back and they really have to sit there and think about what they've seen, what they've experienced, who they've talked to.
And it was up to us to kind of decipher, based on what we read from other ethnographies, what the images might mean on the molas. It's not just showing random artifacts that we find them to be pretty. It's the deep cultural aspects of the pieces and how that could perpetuate the cultures that we choose to present.
And though molas can seem like small, simple squares of fabric, after this trip, molas were now living, breathing symbols of the Guna people. And so, Jessica and her fellow students created their art lab exhibit and entitled it, From Ancient Art to Modern Molas, Recurring Themes in Indigenous Panama. The power of the completed exhibit was a reminder of the importance of educating communities about the greater world around them, and perhaps just as important, about the world in their own backyard, about who they are, and why that is important to understand.
I interacted with many children on the island. They were all so brilliant and they knew so much about their culture. They were kind of the liaisons I had. Sometimes they would serve as, translators for me. They would find places on the island. When I would ask them about the molas, they knew, because some of them were interested in continuing that tradition of wearing molas.
And continuing that tradition will help these indigenous people survive the many challenges that lay ahead. For no matter what the future may hold, the art of the mola can help anchor that future to the importance of its past. From history to heritage, it's the ongoing journey to the soul of Guna Yala.
A journey to the soul of Guna Yala was brought to you in part by Dr. Nicole Edicon and by the following: Ms. Kathy L. Jones and Portland Investments, Inc.